Thanks for watching this DVD, and we hope that you had a great Bible study. I mean, you had a great faith conversation at home after Pastor Samuel's message. And we hope and pray that you will continue to do this regularly in 2012. We know it can be uncomfortable. You are not alone. It can be uncomfortable, especially when you're not used to doing it. Well, wearing a new pair of shoes can be uncomfortable as well. But you don't go around barefoot. And you get my point. I mean, like a new pair of shoes, the more that we have faith conversations, faith discussions, Bible studies in our homes, the more comfortable they'll be. And as a matter of fact, you'll get to the point that you really enjoy them, look forward to them, and get a lot out of them as you grow closer together in this faith journey that God has us on. All this faith at home stuff is caught by others. I mean, caught in the sense that others can see it, especially our kids. And so when grandparents engage spiritually in spiritual conversations and discussion with their own kids and grandkids, I mean, faith is caught. And when young couples, even without kids or with young kids, start having conversations about faith, they develop habits that will eventually be caught by kids and by others around us. And it really communicates to us, to the family, to whatever your family looks like, to each other, the relevance of God. That God actually becomes a part of our lives on a regular basis and not just something we talk about on Sunday mornings at church. Or worse, we just let other people talk to God about God with us. We want to bring faith outside the church walls as well. So when there are kids in the home, when we have kids, God has given us the privilege to lead them in this faith journey. God's given us a command. God's entrusted us in shepherding our kids so that they grow up to love and honor God. It's not a secret, though, that a majority of kids, a lot of kids, become teenagers and they graduate from high school, but then they also graduate from church. And they kind of put their faith on hold, and hopefully they come back, to church later in life, but many of them don't. And so here's maybe a segment, here's maybe a realistic statistic that might lend some truth as to why that happens. George Barna, in his book, Transforming Children into Spiritual Champions, says this. He says, "We discovered that in a typical week, fewer than 10% of parents who regularly attend church with their kids read the Bible together. Fewer than 10%. Fewer than 10% pray together, other than at mealtimes, or participate in an act of service as a family unit. Even fewer families, 1 out of every 20, have any type of worship experience together with their kids other than while they're at church during any typical month." So whether we have kids at home, whether we're engaging our neighbors, relatives, extended family, God actually gives us a way. God gives us an answer about how to pass on our faith, how to really share our faith. And it's actually close to the beginning of the Bible in Deuteronomy. Moses in chapter 6 is talking to the Israelites, and he says this in verse 5, "Love God, your God, with all your heart. Love him with all that's in you. Love him with all you've got. Write these commandments that I've given you today on your hearts." So you adults, you mature Christians, you better make sure you're committed to God, that you love him with your heart. And then he says, get these inside of you and get them inside of your children. How? he goes on. Talk about them wherever you are, sitting at home or walking down the street. Talk about them from the time you get up in the morning to when you fall into bed at night. Tie them on your hands and foreheads as a reminder. Inscribe them on the doorpost of your homes and on your city gates. So he gives us the way to tell people about him. And so Moses, later on in that chapter, it's a great chapter, Deuteronomy chapter 6. You should look it up. Because later on in the chapter, Moses tells the people, the Israelites, to tell of all the great things that God has done in the past to those in the future that they're going to meet. We're to talk about God all the time. We're to talk about what God is doing so others will hear and know that our God is alive and active and working. He's worked in the past, he's working now, and will continue to work. He wants us to astonish them with what God has done. So if you're not in a life group where spiritual discussions naturally happen, we want to encourage you to get involved in a life group, especially in January when our new church-wide study starts. We also want you to know that we're here to support you, to encourage you, to equip you, to provide with you resources to help you on this journey so that your home can be a home that's devoted to God. No matter your stage in life, what your family looks like, there are resources in our Faith at Home bookstore that's in the church lobby that can help you just get conversations going in the home. As this new year approaches, and we talk about New Year's resolutions, I want to challenge you. I really want to encourage you to think about making this kind of resolution. I mean, we talk about losing weight and eating right and stop this and stop that, or maybe do this. But how about this? How about this year making a resolution as a family, or maybe you as the leader and the parents of the family, to engage each other in having spiritual discussions of faith in the home. Commit to leading your family. Commit to discussing things and talking about God when you wake up in the morning to when you lay down in bed at night. To really bringing faith home. To really making God a part of everything that we do. Not just an hour on Sunday mornings. It's the most important thing that we can do if we are going to share our faith with others and if we're going to pass our faith to the next generation. Thanks for listening, and please, if there's anything we can do to help or support your family, let us know.